Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie O'Leary. Richie was at basketball practice today, so he's got his practice notebook to unload for everybody. Got some good nuggets, let you know what he saw, all of that and more. But first, this podcast, once again, is presented to you by Night and Day Apparel. Beat the heat this summer with our hot one-of-a-kind products. With temperatures rising, there's no better time to refresh your wardrobe with cool and stylish summer essentials. Whether you're planning a beach getaway, a picnic in the park, or simply lounging in the yard, we've got you covered. Visit our website today and explore our full range of summer essentials from pool floats and spatulas to bathing suits and tank tops. If you use our promo code Rutgers Rivals, you can get 10% off your purchase. Shop now and keep chopping.
Sounds like they might have sold out of pool floats. There it is right there. Gone.
Yeah, so anybody who saw the Pikiell videos, the videos from Pikiell's house, rather, those were from Night and Day, and they have since sold out. So you guys, if you listened and heard about it, you bought them all up. So they're waiting on a new order of those to come in. So stay tuned for those. But they have a lot of other good stuff too. So yeah, if you were waiting for the pool float, you might have to wait a little bit longer.
I'm not gonna lie, that Moscow Mule mug might be screaming my name.
That is pretty sick, yeah. I like the rope athletic hat, too.
Oh, the little, yeah. I like that.
The shirt here is from Night and Day, too.
Oh, so there you go.
It's one of my favorites.
Representation right there. Rutgers Rivals promo code, don't forget.
Yep, 10% off, and you can use that for every purchase, not just your first one. So
yeah.
Let's talk about this practice. I think it's the last practice of the week for week one of the first week of summer workouts for the basketball team.
Correct.
We knew some of the stuff that was going on. You know, Dylan Harper not participating right now, recovering from an injury. Jerry Carino and Brian Fonseca were at practice yesterday, so there was some news reported out of there. But let's hear what you saw today. Let's just talk vibes. What is the general, energy level right now in the APC when you were watching practice today?
Well, I walk in and everyone's like, "Oh!" No, I'm just kidding. Actually, one guy that was a donor there actually was like went out of his way to talk to me for a little bit, and
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. He's like, "Yeah, and you run that podcast, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's me. Hey, how's it going?" Actually, happened to me yesterday at my basketball game too. So basically, I am Ace Bailey. But regardless, no, it's a totally different vibe there. Everyone's very, very excited. You could tell they're all just between the communications people, between the coaches, between even the volunteers, the student managers, everyone's just very giddy about this year. And then you got to see practice and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's why they're that good. Overall, it's just a lot more talkative guys, a lot more veteran leadership too. Not that there wasn't much last year, but there wasn't much last year. There's really no way without kind of hating on people, but some of the seniors last year, they just didn't have that captain type of morale. Whereas this year, you're seeing guys like Martini step up. Tyson Aov's very vocal out there. Jeremiah Williams is if he's not a captain, I'll be shocked because he just does everything right from a player perspective, from just not even a player perspective, just from overall all around player. He's very talkative with guys. He's coaching up guys. If someone's in the wrong position, he's trying to help them make sure they go into the right position. Everyone's very vocal. Coaching staff's very excited. Even the reactions from some of them. Ace threw down a crazy windmill today, and everyone's just and it's just like
a breakaway.
Yeah, it was just there wasn't any contesting or anything like that. It was just more of a three-man weave type drill, and he just throws one crazy one down, and it's just oh my god, dude, that I've never seen a Rutgers player do that before. But no, overall, everyone's very close. Everyone's very tight-knit group. Even Dylan's out there running around, not running around, I should say. He's still out there cheering these guys on and just even coaching them up too, because he can't really do much at the moment, but it's you could just see these guys are all very close with one another. They talk to each other. They talk on the court, whether off the court. They joke around with each other. It's a lot of laughing. Just overall a very good vibe.
So you've seen several years in a row now in the summertime. Mm-hmm. Some teams look like they're a fairly baked cake already. Some don't. What's the biggest difference between this year's team from what you saw in one practice, big caveat, versus what you saw last year's team in the summer?
I'd say they're just overall better shooters. There's definitely some more speed to it, so the tempo is going to go a little bit higher than it was last year. I would argue a lot higher than last year, but we did see a lot of tempo last year during the summer or training camp. I forget what it was, and they were pushing the pace, and then all of a sudden season hit, and then it's like kind of that pace isn't really as much there. And you can argue it was from a lot of different things last year because there were injuries, there were guys getting not quote unquote suspended. Um, and then this year, it's just a lot of faster pace, a lot more of guys just helping each other, bouncing off one another. But the shooting in general is just a lot better overall. Like Tyson Aov can hit from just about anywhere. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see PJ Hayes today because he was out with an elbow injury. I'm told it's nothing serious. It's just a little bruise, nothing crazy. They just want to take it easy with him. But I was told like the other day, he lit it up. Zack Martini can shoot from just about anywhere. Somerville can shoot from deep if need be. Ace obviously can hit from anywhere. Dylan obviously didn't play, but also could hit from anywhere. Jeremiah looks like he's refined his shooting a little bit, and he's taking some smarter shots, better shots overall. Jamichael Davis even hit a couple in the mid-ranges, which I was pretty impressed by. Overall, this just offensive output of this team is going to be something you haven't seen since Pikiell's been on the banks, basically. It's going to be a totally different, not your traditional rebound, defense, speed limit team. This is like add 20 miles to the speed limit, and that's like your average scoring almost.
We hope so, because last year we heard the 80-point number being thrown around is what they wanted to target, and fell well short of that. So obviously the talent is significantly better this year than it was last, but you just got to hope that the offense comes along as well, because the defense has always been there for Pikiell, and I don't expect that to be any different. Pikiell is one of the best coaches in college basketball in terms of defensive coaching. Now we just got to see what he's made of offensively.
Yeah.
Let's kind of go down some general like high level things you saw. Let's kind of talk individual players. You mentioned Ace already. Yeah. What was it about Ace? Because this is not the first time you've seen him in person, but it's the first time you've seen him in a Rutgers uniform. What is it about Ace that makes him so special?
He's 6'10" and can do just about anything any guard can do, and he can defend 1 through 5, basically. Now, he's not going to go against 5s, of course, but I think he could if need be. Like, he is a legitimate 6'10" out there. This is a forward, a stretch forward. I hate saying Kevin Durant, but it's like the tall, lengthy forward man that like forward / wing / can do it all. There's some like he'll be doing like the 3-man weave drills every time he throws it down. And also, mind you, it's just like, what the fuck? Like, holy shit. Like, it's like you see the rim shaking still afterwards. And I'm just amazed. And then you see a crazy windmill. Then you'll see a over under dunk. You'll see a 2-handed slam from behind the head. And it's like, what the hell? Like, it's just freaky athletic. And not only that, like his mid-range game is crazy. Now, I saw him miss a couple early on, and I'm like, ooh, it's not that good. Like, he's missing a couple. Then they put a defender on him, and he starts doing, like, the step-back Dirk Nowitzki, like, 1-footer, like, fadeaway. And I'm like, what? And he nailed, like, 4 of them. And I'm like, in a row against Dylan Grant. And Bryce Dortch, too, today. And I'm just like, I don't – like, it's such a bad shot, but it's like it's going in. So his shot selection's still very questionable. It's always going to be, I think, when you have a player of his caliber. But when he hits them, it's like, I'm not going to question a thing if you're going to be able to hit those things. Yep. It's like an NBA. You watch NBA games nowadays, and for someone that might not watch the NBA a lot, turn on a game from like this past season, you'll watch and be like, what the hell's he? Oh, it went in. What the hell? Oh, it went in. And it's like, oh, well, it went in, so who cares? But his athleticism just is off the charts. And if he can hit those mid-range and those 3-point shots, and he's got the guard skill set, he pulled out just about every move out of his bag today, and it was just incredible. His bag's like unlimited almost. Like he's doing spin moves, getting to the rim. He's crossing over guys. Like it's insane. Like I can't hype it up enough. He's going to be very, very special.
Is he the best player you've seen in a Rutgers uniform in your time as a fan, or in your time covering the team?
Without a doubt. Yeah, like he is going to be a top 2 pick. I don't want to guarantee it. I think he could fight for number 1, but it's going to be tough. I think he needs to pack on some weight, and he's got to be more consistent with that jumper. But if he can do that this year and have a big tournament run, I think he could surpass Cooper Flagg who's projected number 1 right now. It's just the difference is Cooper's a little bit better defender, a little bit more thicker, a little guy that can I shouldn't say little guy, a guy that can do these things a little bit better and a little more consistent.
Gotcha. Let's stick with some of the newcomers here. What did you think of Lathan Somerville? Just obviously, a lot of these takes are just, half baked, not half baked as in
Yeah.
Richie hasn't thought about them, but it's only one practice. What did you think of Lathan in his first practice you saw?
Yeah, I thought Lathan was actually pretty solid. He was running with the ones today, quote unquote ones, I guess. Because if you look at the lineups they put out, it was Jeremiah, Tyson Aov. Well, you can actually flip flop that because I think Tyson's more of a one now. Tyson, Jeremiah, Ace Bailey, Zack Martini, Lathan Somerville. If you watch some of the clips from practice earlier this week, it was Jamichael Davis, Jeremiah, Ace Bailey, Zack Martini, Emmanuel Ogwell. So you kind of see where that's going. You see like 3 solidified starters, and those other 2 spots are still up for grabs, so to say. But when Dylan comes in, I expect him to be the starting one. Regardless, I thought Somerville has some good skills. He has some things he needs to work on. I think in terms of his offensive output, I think he has that guard skill set. I think he has nice touch on his passes. His touch passes are like perfect almost. Like they did like a little like layup drill, and his passes to these guys just cutting, it's like perfect place, like better than some of the guards on the team. And that's not a knock on the guards. It's just the fact that Lathan just has that much of a good vision and just a good little touch on it. But his offensive skill set's pretty solid too because he can kind of stretch the floor. He's not going to back you down. He's not that typical old school type center that honestly Emmanuel Ogbo is, and that's where it's like a complete opposite of each other. But he has a couple post moves. He can hit from just about anywhere. He has the guard dribble ability. And he would cross someone up, honestly. We've seen it before in high school, and I think he might be able to do that in the college level too, depending on who his matchup is. That being said, defensively, he's got to get a little bit better. Pikiell said this yesterday to Jerry and Fonseca, but he mentioned it today too a little bit. The freshmen as a group have to get in better shape. I would say Lathan is probably near the top of that group. I think he needs to maybe lose a little bit. I'm not knocking him too much on his on being in shape or not being in shape, but this is their first week. It is the college game. They're going to have to adjust. But I do think losing like maybe a solid 5 to 10 pounds would probably help him a little bit in terms of that. But athletically, I think he'll be fine when it comes to like mid-season. I think mid-season, that's when you'll start to see him go into full stride.
Let's continue with the younger guys here. What do you think of Dylan Grant?
Dylan Grant's interesting. So he's just as tall as we kind of projected. He is a legitimate 6'8", maybe 6'9". He is massive. He's with the big men every drill they have together. He's working a lot with Steve Hain, who's the big man coach. For better or worse, you guys can decide that one. But yeah, no, I thought he was a pretty good player. He's very athletic. He has a little bit of a bigger build than Bryce Dortch. They're very similar in terms of play style. I know someone asked me this yesterday, like if you had to guess, would Dortch be more of a 3, a 4? And watching his high school tape, I always thought more of a 3, but it seems like they're both kind of a 4 type mold. They remind me of like an early, younger Mawat Mag, but a little bit taller and a little bit thicker in terms for Grant, at least. For Dortch, probably about the same size as Mag coming in. But we'll get to the rim. His mid-range, his jumper's a little odd. He almost like flicks the wrist a little bit at the very end. It is a little bit of an unorthodox shot that they'll have to probably fix. But he's not going to do anything crazy offensively. I think defensively and rebounding, that's going to be his bread and butter this year alone. I personally think out of those two, I think one of them might actually end up redshirting, to be honest with you. Because there's just so many bodies, you don't really like. I don't think you're going to be able to find playing time for both of them.
Yeah, playing 10 guys consistently is hard enough, let alone 12. So
yeah,
wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. So we kind of touched on Dortch there a lot. Yeah. So we'll skip past him. Let's stick with the newcomers, though. What were your impressions of? Let's just go. So PJ Hayes was out today, but let's talk Zack Martini. What did you think of Zack Martini?
He's a great shooter, really good shooter. I know people keep saying he's going to play the 5. I know Pikiell said he's going to play the 5, but Pikiell also said back in the day that Miles Johnson and Cliff were going to play together. He also said that Cliff and Antoine Woolfolk were going to play together, and I think they did for like 10 minutes last year total. Mm-hmm. It happens every year. I don't see him playing a whole lot of 5, so people can stop worrying about that. I think he's a traditional 4-man. I think he's very aggressive. and people that question his rebounding, I know like some people have seen the numbers and said like, hey, he's not a good rebounder. Like he only averaged 3-4 a game. He's a very good rebounder. He's going to fight down low no matter what. There were moments where he was going up against Ogbol, and he was holding his own. And Ogbol is twice the size, twice the strength of him. I actually think Zack Martini is going to be a really good piece, and then I'd argue he might be a solidified starter at this point. He's a great shooter. He can stretch the floor, especially when you're going to have guys like Dylan and Ace that are going to cut to the rim nonstop. I think that he's going to be wide open for a lot of shots this year, and he's used to that usage too. Because last year, I think he averaged the most 3-point attempts last year for Princeton, who was like a top 4 3-point shooting team overall. But yeah, no, really good player, really aggressive, real big hustle guy. I think he's going to be I don't know exact numbers of what he's going to put up, but I think he's going to be a really solid player for Rutgers this year.
Yeah, there was a few clips of him that were released the last few days of him just hitting knockdown shots with ease. So it'd be nice to have those guys on the court. You said you saw a lot of that.
Yeah.
Let's continue with the newcomers here. What do you think of Jordan Durk?
Durk's interesting. I think he's your prototypical Steve Pikiell type recruit. Now, this is a guy that's not so much a shooter. I think he struggles a little bit when you get to that mid-range / the 3-point range. But when he gets to the rim, he's really crafty around the rim. I saw him do a couple moves that who was he going up against? I can't remember who it was. I think it was either Jamichael or it was Tyson Aov. I forgot who it was in the one-on-one drills, but he's able to get to the rim. He's able to do just about anything he wants with the ball around the rim, but he just can't shoot the ball. Now, that being said, his defense is phenomenal, and that's where it comes into the Steve Pikiell type recruit. He's a great defender. He'll get to the rim. He almost reminds me of a more finished product of Jamichael Davis and a little bit taller. But yeah, he's a pesky defender, and I think he's a guy where if you're going to throw out a lineup with, hypothetically, if you were going to throw out a lineup with Jeremiah and him on the court at the same time, and if you want to run a 3-guard lineup and throw Jamichael Davis out there too, I think it's going to be very tough for people to score on those three because all three of them are borderline all-conference defenders. He's very, very good at that part on the defensive end of the court. But offense, I don't know how much you'll see out of him. But the good news is you probably get him for 2 years. I say probably because you never know with the portal, but 2 years is huge. And if you can get him for another year and then he can kind of slide into a more scoring role next year, that's huge. I'm not saying he can't score. Like he can definitely score. He's proved it at Merrimack. Merrimack's not the best in the world, their best conference, but most of his points are probably going to come around the rim.
Yep. Let's keep going with the newcomers. The last transfer in that was practicing today was Tyson Aov. What do you think of Tyson Aov's game?
He can score from just about anywhere. I'd argue he's today he was an unofficial starter. I'm going to say he's probably your 6th man this year. Going into today, I kind of thought he was more of a shooting guard, but he's a little crafty. He's got good vision, good ball handling. Like I could see him being like a backup point for whenever Dylan comes out, or like if Jeremiah comes out, or if somebody needs just someone to handle the ball in general. Because Dylan can play off ball, Jeremiah can play off ball. I think he's probably the 6th man on this team, and that's a guy that you need to. We've seen it in the past with like a Jacob Young. He'd come in and score buckets really quickly. I think Tyson Aov can do something similar to that, but almost a better scorer overall. Now, Jacob Young was very good at the rim. Tyson Aov's game is more shooting from mid to outside, but very crafty, very crafty guard that can kind of dribble. He has his own bag of sorts. But yeah, I mean, just he's a guy that with less usage than he had last year, I think he'll end up developing into a much better offensive player.
Love to hear that. Let's talk about the 3 returning guys in Jamichael Davis, Jeremiah Williams, and Emmanuel Ogbol. Just a few things that you saw that were, maybe improvements from last year or changes in their physique or game. Anything you saw about them that you thought was different than last year?
Jamichael's more confident. I think he's still that pesky on-ball defender. He's very annoying. I was saying today, like if you had to play against him, like I'd be miserable. Like it would just not be a good day. Great footwork on defense, but offense, he's still developing. His jumper's getting better. It's hitting at a better rate. It's still not there fully. He's still, most of his points are, like I said before, he's kind of similar to Durk in play style, where most of his points are going to come at the rim. He'll draw the contact. But I thought he's in better shape, and I thought he looked a little bit bigger too in terms of muscle wise. So that could only help when going to the rim, because last year he was rail thin as a guard, and you saw him get pushed around a little bit too. Who else am I? Oh, Jeremiah Williams. I am like super impressed with him today. I thought he was the best player on the court today by far.
Even better than Ace.
That's where it depends how you look at it. Like Ace does the crazy things that make you say, wow, holy shit. Like you watch Jeremiah Williams, you're like, this kid's just a very all-around finished product. Like he's a very good player. He can score if you need him to. He'll sit back if you need him to. He can facilitate if you need him to. And he's not a bad rebounder either from the guard position. On top of that, he's a hell of a defender. I wouldn't be surprised if he got all-conference defense this year. He is just a very good, very stout defender, because they're going to have to attack someone. And I don't see them attacking Dylan, because Dylan's got crazy size. Like even today I saw Dylan. Dylan's like 6'7". Like he's massive. Wow. So you put him, you put Jeremiah, you put Ace out there. I don't know if they're going to attack Ace on defense, maybe a little bit, but he's lengthy as hell too and can make up ground. So I feel like from a backcourt perspective, you almost have to attack Jeremiah, but if you do that, you're going to regret it. I thought he's just like I said before, an all-around finished product. Like he is like the guy. I think he's the captain of this team. I think he's the leader of his team, and I think he's going to play a massive role in terms of all that, and then just kind of doing a little bit of everything for everyone. Now he's not perfect at any of these things, but I think he's just very good at a couple of different things. And then the last one was Emmanuel Ogbol. He's intriguing. I think he's better than he was last year. He's definitely more healthy. He's definitely still massive. I think he actually learned a couple post moves, it looked like, because he caught Martini slacking on one of them. Now, mind you, I personally wouldn't have put Martini against him. I would have put Ogbol versus Somerville to see that matchup. I was really intrigued and hoping they would do that, but they didn't today. His hands are still very questionable. And, like, you see him bobble, like, the three-man weave drill, for example. Like, they made him, like, cut to the rim, and they throw it down to him or throw a bounce pass at him, and he just bobbles it for a second and goes up. And don't get me wrong, like, he's not going to shoot. He's not going to shoot threes. He's not going to shoot mid-range. His whole game offensively is that cylinder where he's essentially Cliff on offense, I feel like. Rebounding, it's hard to tell. I don't think he's the best in the world, but I don't think he's the worst in the world. In terms of, like I was saying before, his offensive game, he did learn a couple post moves. He caught Martini really bad on one and then pushed it into the rim. And I'm like, man, come on. Like, you got to finish that. But I think he's also going to be a lot bigger than most of these other centers that he's going to go against. He's just a massive human being. He has that wingspan. He just needs to learn how to finish the dunk or finish the layup or whatever it might be around the rim. And I think he could be okay. I personally still wish, and I'm still in that boat, I'm still going to be there for a while probably, that they went and got a center. They didn't, but I think between the two, they both offer totally two different skill sets. And that's where it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of mesh and how they also divvy up the minutes. Like, I guess you could technically, if you have a big man against a big man, it's like, hey, we're going to throw Ogbol against, I know he's not in the league anymore, but Edie type. Or they're going to throw Somerville against a little bit of a smaller guys and try to see if he can do something there. But it's going to be interesting to see how they divvy that up. I don't know how it's going to work. I think Emmanuel Ogbol's better. I don't think he's amazing, though.
Yeah, and this isn't going to be the last summer practice you see, so it'll be interesting to see later on, maybe in like a month or so, the differences between, their games, the size they put on, because all these freshmen, and this kind of pivots nicely into things Pikiell said afterwards, because he spoke with reporters. One of the main things he said was every freshman needs to add significant weight to their frame, or at least needs to get in better shape. What were some other things that Steve Pikiell said after when you guys were speaking to him?
Yeah, I mean, there's just everyone asked him about the hype and how he feels about it, and he of course hypes them all up. He's like, yeah, this freshman class is great. Ace is doing Ace-like things. Dylan still on the same timeline. Nothing crazy. It was just more like this freshman class. It's their first week, so I don't want to read too much into it. But he's like, they kind of have to get in better shape. Like, And that's where I said before, like Dorch could afford to add like 15, 20 pounds, whereas Somerville could afford to lose 10 to 15 pounds. They also have to reshape their bodies a little bit too. Like Ace is rail thin. Like you want him to pack on some muscle. Honestly, Dylan Grant's out of the five, I'd say Dylan Grant's probably the most physically fit of the five, but even you have to just turn it into more of a college body than a high school body. You can get away with just about doing anything with your body in high school. You could be a little bit bigger. You could be a little bit thinner. Like Bryce Dortch was averaging I forget what his exact numbers were, but he was very good on offense and very good on defense in high school, but you can get away with that in high school being 170 pounds or whatever it is. But he needs to pack on weight before he contributes. You're going to get to this Big Ten, and the Big Ten is no joke. It's probably the most physical conference in college basketball. So that's the biggest thing I probably took away from everything Pikiell said. He didn't really say anything super crazy either. Everyone asks him about Ace, about Dylan. I'm trying to think what else. Ogbol, the center thing. I know he made a joke actually at one point. He was like, I know everyone asks about the center. Everyone's worried about my 13th scholarship. They're worried about the 5 spot. You know what? It's funny. My first year here, everyone was worried about all 5 spots. So it's kind of a big switch up. Now I'm only have to worry about 1, right? And he's confident in those 2 guys. Even if they do get a big man, he's not going to play much, but he is confident in these 2. And we'll have to just wait and see. You got to trust Pike on that one. I don't like the idea, but again, no matter who the 5-man is, they're going to be your 5th option on the court 95% of the time, maybe 99% of the time, because Ogbol is not an offensive juggernaut. I think Somerville's a little bit better on offense, but I don't think he's going to do anything super crazy either. So, like I said, whoever the 5-man is, it's probably your last option on the court, no matter what.
Yeah, that's fair. So it was nice to get out for a practice. You and Craig were there today. Is there anything else we haven't touched on or covered that you thought was interesting or worth bringing up?
Trying to read my notes now. Somerville, no. That's pretty much it. I think you're going to have a lot of different options of where you can go with this team in terms of combos of lineups. Like I mentioned before, you can go an all defensive lineup and throw out the 3 guys I mentioned, and Williams, Jermichael, and Durk. You could throw out a lineup with Ace Bailey at the 4, Ace Bailey at the 5, even if you really wanted to, not a conference play specifically. Martini's going to play a little bit of 5. He'll play the 4. It's just very versatile. I saw Acuff play the 1 today. I saw Acuff play the 2 today. I saw Jeremiah play the 3 today. I saw Jeremiah play the 2 today. Like, there's so many different things you can do with this lineup. I really wish I got to see PJ Hayes because everyone's been raving about his shooting. I needed to see that, and unfortunately I wasn't able to.
Damn.
But he's got some good size to him too, which is a little interesting. I didn't think he was. I don't think he's going to play the 4. I think he's more of a 3. But he's thick. He's got some weight to him. So I mean, he'll be able to hold his own a little bit. Now, putting him up against Ace in practice, like they did in that one clip, I don't think that's the best move because I don't think there's any way in hell he can cover Ace. But Dylan Grant,
not many people on earth who could cover Ace. To be fair,
that's true. Dylan Grant and Dorch today did a good job of covering him, and he's just still nailing like shot after shot contested in his face, and they just somehow hits the shot. I don't understand how. It was a lot of wow moments, and it was just more like that kid's legit. Like it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. I'm hoping to join you the next time you go, so we can kind of have some dual firsthand experiences. But today it was just Richie and Craig, so get geared up because football is about to start as well. Basketball season isn't starting yet, but the practicing is starting, so things are starting to ramp up. It's exciting. Richie is going to be on vacation next week, so we might not have much for you guys in terms of episodes. I'm sure if there's something that happens, we'll find a way to make a podcast while he's away. But just want to give you guys the heads up. What'd you say?
It's not Mexico Mike, but I'll make
not Mexico Mike, but it'll be
make an acronym somehow.
Yeah, Rehoboth Richie or whatever, wherever you're going.
Oh, Myrtle Beach, Myrtle Beach,
Myrtle Beach. Oh, interesting. I'm going there in a month, so you'll have to give me some feedback.
There you go. Yeah. Drink heavily, enjoy the beach. Done.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks once again for listening, everybody. everybody who's listened or rated, reviewed, subscribed, told a friend. That all really helps grow the channel. Thanks to everybody who has bought anything from our sponsor. They're selling stuff out. I'm not going to take credit for that, but I'd like to think we played a little bit of a part in making sure that they're getting their bang for their buck from this as well. But for me and Rich, this has been another edition of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.